July 1st, 2025 for the Nashville Predators looked a lot different than July 1st, 2024. Thank goodness.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy day after free agency to all who celebrate here. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we want to shout out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everyday listeners for hanging out with us, talking some Nashville Predators hockey. I am Emma Lingan. I'm an NHL host and reporter with the Hockey News, and I am normally joined by my partner in crime, Ann Kimmel. Unfortunately, Ann is away for the rest of the week, so y'all are stuck with just me today. I will have a special guest co-host joining me for Thursday and Friday shows, so make sure you tune back in for that. But today, you're stuck with me. Strap in, y'all. It's going to be a good one. We got a lot to talk about. Free agency, day one is done. Quiet day for the Nashville Predators. That's actually a very good thing. I think that we wanted that. We've had a little bit too much excitement during the 84-year just Bataan death march that it felt like it was for the Nashville Predators this past season. Of course, the first thing that we want to talk about is what happened before free agency. So right before the free agency open on July 1st, the Predators did make a trade. This is a tough one. It's a tough one for us here at Locked On Predators as big Colton Sissons, aka Mr. Potato Head fans. The Predators did acquire defenseman Nic Hague and Vegas conditional third round pick in the 2027 NHL draft from the Golden Knights in exchange for Mr. Potato Head, Colton Sissons, and Jeremy Lauzon. So, in connection with this trade, Nashville has agreed to retain 50% of Colton Sissons' salary, which is under $3 million. It's not a huge amount there. Plus, he comes off the books after this year anyway. In the event that Vegas wins 2 rounds in the 2026 Stanley Cup playoffs, then the Golden Knights will transfer their second round pick in the 2027 NHL draft instead of their third round pick in the 2027 NHL draft to Nashville. So that's all conditional. We'll find out what happens there based on what happens in the postseason. But you know what? Anyone who wanted Mitch Marner to be teammates with Colton Sissons and Jeremy Lauzon, you got it. It's just on a different team. It is not here in Nashville. Unfortunately, they will all be teammates on the Vegas Golden Knights come this next season. So in return, the Predators get Hague. He is a Stanley Cup champion in 2023. Nothing to sneeze at. He is signed to a 4-year, $22 million contract. It was a trade, and instead of a sign and trade, it was a trade and sign, sort of. He signed the extension once he landed in Nashville. 26 years old. He had 12 points, 40 penalty minutes, 82 hits, and 74 block shots in 68 games for Vegas. In this last season, it was his 6th NHL season. He's a big boy, 6'6", 245 pounds. Again, there's your answer for your need for size on the back end. Barry Trotz has said that. He said that he wanted to add some size on the back end, and he definitely did it. As Ann would say, he definitely meets the inches over 6 feet requirement here. Big boy here at 6'6". He has had 10 points in all 6 of his NHL season. He's eclipsed that 10-point mark. Now, this is a defensive defenseman you're getting here. You're not getting a Roman Josi type. You're getting a stay-at-home defenseman, which I think, quite frankly, is what this team needs. Especially needs some stability there on the back end. We saw after all the defensive struggles that they had over this last year, but big stay-at-home defenseman, has had at least 10 points in every season. He had a career high 17 points in the 2020-21 season and has a career plus minus of plus 20. And a lot of people have thoughts about the plus minus stat, but I think that it's worth noting that everyone on the Nashville Predators, sans Nick Blankenburg, finished with a plus minus in the negative last season. So we'll take the pluses where we can get them. He's got 572 hits in his career. So that's the second most among all Vegas defensemen in their relatively short franchise history. He's got 489 career blocked shots. He has 83 points total in 364 NHL games, all coming with the Golden Knights. But here's where it gets interesting. Nic Hague, during Vegas's run to the 2023 Stanley Cup, also known as the year that Jonathan Marchessault was the Conn Smythe winner with the Vegas Golden Knights, he appeared in all 22 games. He racked up 6 points, 2 goals, and 4 assists. He had a plus 12 rating in those playoffs, which was tied for the third most among all defensemen during that postseason. All told, Hague has played in 44 career postseason games. He's got 10 points and 88 hits in those 44 postseason games. So if we're looking at the impact of the trade here, I think, to me, Nic Hague for Jeremy Lauzon, kind of a wash. I think, we love Jeremy Lauzon, but the size, the physicality, the hits, everything that he brings there, the defensive defenseman, I kind of think it's essentially what you're going to get in Nic Hague, and he's just a little bit younger. And he's got a little bit more size. Again, 6'6". That's like Michael McCarron size. That's a big boy. So I think that on the back end, I think a lot of people at first were like, oh my gosh, it's another left shot defenseman. We don't need another left shot defenseman. Well, you're kind of exchanging them out one for one. Colton Sissons, of course, is the bigger loss for me in this trade. And it's what makes me really hope that the Golden Knights make it past 2 rounds in the playoffs next year so the Preds can get a higher draft pick. Because look, Colton Sissons, his stats may not have jumped off the page in Nashville. He's not going to be a super high scoring center. But he was that guy. He was the glue guy. He was the guy who you could put anywhere throughout the lineup in Nashville. I mean, is he a 1C? No, probably not, but he could be. Just knowing that you always had that on your roster. He could play on the first line. He could play on the fourth line. He could be the safety net for those new young players that you have who need like a little bit of stability. Colton Sissons was that guy. Exceptional two-way game. Very strong defensively, which again, I think we're going to be looking for now this year. Obviously the play of the defense, not just the defensemen, but the defensive play of the forwards was really lacking this last year for the Nashville Predators. So I think that's going to be something that they're going to need to replace. Colton Sissons, scoring wise, offensive production wise, yeah, that's not a tremendous loss there, but I think you're losing so much more with the loss of Colton Sissons. You're losing a leader. You're losing that safety net, like I said, and you're using the jack of all trades, Mr. Potato Head, Swiss Army knife, whatever analogy you want to use. And this is just a really, really valuable member of this team. Of course, he was one of the 2 remaining guys who were on the roster for that 2017 Stanley Cup final run. Now he gets to go and try to win another cup with Vegas. And quite frankly, he's got a better chance of doing that in Vegas than he would in Nashville. So wish him the very, very best, but certainly will be missing him here in Nashville. Another thing that is worth mentioning, I think, is, the center depth now in Nashville. Not great. Already wasn't great, even with Sissons, but now you add on the fact that you don't have him. So now you've got Ryan O'Reilly, Fedor Svechkov, Michael McCarron, and now Eric Haula. So Barry Trotz, we spoke with him after the first day of free agency on July 1st. He said, he recognized it. He acknowledged, yes, this is not an area of strength for us right now, but we're going to have to find scoring. We're going to have to be able to win in other ways. So that means scoring on the wings, tough defense, reliable and safe center play. You don't really have a ton of, again, flashy, big goal scoring centers now, but you've got safety picks in there. So he also acknowledged that the Predators were quiet in free agency, especially in the forward group, because, quote, we need to build a new core. He wants the young forwards to play. And I think that's going to be huge. Coming up, going to talk about some of the other moves, very few moves, actually really only one major move that the Nashville Predators made on the first day of free agency. And let's talk a little bit about Nick Perbix. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, so you can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you have ever looked at your spending and been surprised at how fast it adds up, you need to get Monarch Money today. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. All right, we are talking about free agency / trades. We just went over the Nic Hague trade for the Nashville Predators. Free agency, again, this July 1st looked a lot different than last July 1st. Only one real move today in free agency. The Predators signed defenseman Nick Perbix to a 2-year, $5.5 million contract. So I'm gonna give you a spoiler. I love this signing for Nashville. He's 27 years old. He just finished his third full NHL season with the Tampa Bay Lightning, where he played with one Steven Stamkos, I think is worth pointing out. He scored a career-high 6 goals, added 19 points and a +8 rating in 74 games this past season. Again, inches over 6 feet, very important. 6'4", 206 pounds. And here it is, friends. Right shot defenseman. The Predators got a right shot defenseman in Nick Perbix, arguably the best right shot defenseman available in free agency now that guys like Aaron Ekblad, for example, off the market, re-signed in Florida. It was already a thin market, but the Predators, I think, really, really nailed it with this signing. He averaged 14 minutes, 41 seconds of ice time last year, blocked 67 shots, had 50 hits. He had a shooting percentage at 5-on-5, and this I find interesting, of 52.1%. So this was the second highest among all Lightning defensemen. So again, I think this is a fantastic signing for Nashville. You're filling an organizational need, a big organizational need, considering the only right shot defensemen on the roster were Nick Blankenburg and Justin Barron. And you're doing it at a really affordable price. I think that Perbix, maybe not one of the big splashy names out there in free agency, but I think this is a guy who is really underutilized in Tampa because of the defensive core that they had. He elected free agency this year because he knew that he could get more on the open market. I really, really like this signing for Nashville. I think that this is going to be really good. Now, if we take a look at the Predators defense now with the additions of Nic Hague and Nick Perbix, which, by the way, like it or not, however you feel about Barry Trotz, I know people have a lot of feelings, but he did say this offseason, the priority was going to be the defense. It's still early. It's one day into free agency, but he has lived up to that promise. He has done a lot of work to fortify the defense here. So now let's look at the inches over 6 feet metrics for the Nashville Predators defense. You've got Nic Hague at 6'6". You've got Andreas Englund, 6'4". Brady Shea, 6'3". Nick Perbix, 6'2". Justin Barron, 6'2". And then you've got little shrimpy Roman Yossi at just 6'1". Adam Wilsby at 6'1". Jordan Osterley at 6 foot. And then very far down on the graph, the chart, there is Nick Blankenburg at 5'9". I think that this is going to be really good. After, again, size is not everything, but we identified that size was a big area of need on the Predators back end. And again, with Barry Trotz saying, yeah, we don't really have great center depth. Big shock there. So we're going to need to win in other ways. You need to score from the wing, and you need strong defense. And I think, again, if you look at this roster, looking at the pieces that you have, you should have scoring from the wings. You have Philip Forsberg. You have Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Michael Bunting now. I think and then you're going to have elevated roles for guys like Zach LaRue, Luke Evangelista. Again, we're going to get to Evangelista here in a moment because that's another question mark that still remains here for Nashville. But I think overall, I know people still have a lot of feelings about the way that last season ended, and that is totally fair. But I think that Barry Trotz has done what he can at this point in the offseason. Here's another little fun tidbit for you about the Predators defense that we learned at development camp, which is going on this week at Centennial Sportsplex. So Tanner Molendyk, top defensive prospect, he shoots left, but he told us that he played on the right side for his first 4 years in Saskatoon. So he said, quote, "There's pros and cons, but I liked it," meaning playing on the right side. So do the Predators have another option on the right side of the defense? Perhaps. We'll see how it goes. Coming up, I mentioned Luke Evangelista, going to address that. Still a question mark. Still does not have a contract here in Nashville for next year. Going to explain why. All right, rounding out the coverage of the first day of free agency for the Nashville Predators here with a little update, or maybe non-update, on the restricted free agents. The Predators had 4 restricted free agents that they needed to qualify by Monday, so by June 30th. They were Luke Evangelista, Jordan Fresca, Andre Pavel, and Luke Prokop. So they announced that Evangelista had been qualified. He had been extended a qualifying offer. He is the only one with NHL impact at this point. So just because he was the only one who was announced by the team that they had extended an offer, it doesn't necessarily mean that he was the only one. It's the others just don't have NHL impact at this point. So they may have been extended, they may not. we won't know likely until they sign a new contract for next year. So Evangelista, we got an update from Barry Trotz. He when he spoke to the media on July 1st, he said, quote, Luke is a part of our future. I think you're seeing agents and general managers trying to get a grasp on the salary cap, meaning, of course, the salary cap going up in the NHL starting next year. It's creating a lot of movement on the landscape here, I think, with lots of different you're seeing lots of different types of contracts being signed now. You're seeing guys signing for or teams are sort of trying to get guys to sign longer deals at shorter AAV or at smaller AAVs. But of course, the agents, knowing that the cap is going up, said, well, hold on, we don't want to take a discount here. So they're trying to maximize their value on the market with the cap going up. And I think that now, as Barry Trotz said, from everything he said, it sounds like there is absolutely zero reason to believe that Luke Evangelista will not be a member of the Nashville Predators this season. They have full faith they are going to get a deal done. The reason that they don't have one to announce yet is because it's not official. So candidly, Barry Trotz told us that he'd like to go longer, which is what I mentioned. You know, the teams would like to get these players locked up for longer term at a lower annual value before the cap goes up. But of course, the agents are pushing back on that. So I think they're just trying to find a happy landing spot here. But again, it's no cause for panic, no cause for concern. Luke Evangelista is, barring any sort of apocalyptic development, going to be a member of the Nashville Predators next year. So no cause for concern there. Just don't really have an update yet. That is going to do it, though, for all of the updates on what has been a refreshingly quiet day of free agency. First day of free agency for the Nashville Predators. Again, Ann Kimmel, my co-host, is going to be out the rest of this week, but I will have a special guest co-host joining me for Thursday and Friday's shows. So you want to make sure that you don't miss those. Again, want to thank you, all of you, for tuning in today, and those who tune in every day to talk Nashville Predators hockey. Love hearing from you. Want to know what your thoughts are on the moves that Trotz has made or hasn't made. So go ahead and, drop us a comment on YouTube, or maybe on social media. You can follow the podcast at LO_Predators. You can follow me at Emma_Lingan, and you can find the rest of my work covering the NHL at the Hockey News. For now, that's going to do it, though, for today's edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back with an all new episode tomorrow with a special guest host. We'll see you then.